South Africa's most glamorous millionaire, reality TV star, football club owner, and the woman who used to live like a queen is now struggling to stay out of jail. Yes, we're talking about Sean Mkhize, who once secured government housing contracts worth millions and is now facing allegations of 2 suspected assassination attempts, and so much more. So, how did it all go so wrong? The billion-rand queen. Let's start from the beginning. Sean Mkhize, who is also known as Ma Mkhize, is one of the most well-known businesswomen in South Africa. You have probably heard her name recently because of all the legal drama. But long before any of that, she was known for being rich and bold. Reality TV, football, luxury cars, she was everywhere. She was born in a place called Umbumbulu in KwaZulu-Natal. Her mom, Florence Mkhize, was an ANC activist during apartheid, so Sean grew up in a family that was used to fighting for things. After school, she got a diploma in accounting, which ended up being very useful for what came next. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, she started building her career. First, she worked in finance departments for a few companies. But she didn't stay an employee for long. She started doing her own small business projects, things like feeding schemes and painting jobs for the local government. That's how she got into the system. Soon after that, she started a construction company called Ziculis Group. Under that name, she created different businesses that handled cleaning, transport, auto recovery, and construction. Most of her big money came from government contracts, especially RDP housing projects in KwaZulu-Natal. So yes, she made millions building homes with state money. She also made sure her businesses were involved in different parts of local development. Her companies handled everything from transporting goods to building infrastructure. When one tender was done, there was always another one waiting. This clever thinking worked for her pretty well. Her businesses kept growing and she kept making money. As her companies expanded, so did her lifestyle. She bought a massive mansion in La Lucia, Durban. She also had properties in Pietermaritzburg and Johannesburg. Her house was so big that it almost looked like a hotel. Inside, everything was custom built. Marble floors, gold details, chandeliers. It had everything. People were shocked when they saw it on TV. Speaking of TV, this is when she really went public. In 2020, she launched her reality show Kwa Ma Mkhize on Mzansi Magic. It showed her life at home with her son, Andile, her stepdaughter, and her staff. The show was all about her lifestyle. Luxury cars, designer clothes, expensive gifts, and family drama. People could not stop watching, and it became one of the most talked about shows of the year, and even won an award for Best Reality TV Show. At the same time, she became a full-blown social media personality. She went from 0 to 1 million followers on Instagram in under a year. She posted everything from birthdays to outfits, cars, events, and vacations. She also called herself the biggest spender in the family, and was proud of it. She just wanted the world to know exactly how she lived. Then came Royal AM. In 2019, she bought a football club called Real Kings and renamed it Royal AM. That was a huge deal. Not only was she now in charge of a professional football team, but she also made it a brand. The club became part of her image. Royal AM was dramatic, just like her, and her son Andile played for the team, so it became a family business too. The club became famous for all kinds of reasons, like their fancy celebrations, controversial matches, and big spending on players. She showed up at games wearing designer clothes, escorted by bodyguards like a celebrity. And honestly, she became one. Whether people liked her or not, they for sure knew her name. By this point, she had everything. Multiple companies, real estate, a football club, a hit TV show, a giant following online, and a car collection worth over $3 million, including a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, Bentley Bentayga, Ferrari, Lamborghini, and more. And on top of all that, Forbes Africa estimated her net worth somewhere around $19.5 million. She was invited to events, featured in magazines, and praised for her charity work too. She donated to schools, gave away shoes and sanitary pads, and partnered with correctional services to build homes using prison labor. In short, she was doing great business and also giving back. She even won Woman of the Year at the Hollywood and African Prestigious Awards in 2020. At this point, people either loved her or judged her, but they all knew about her. She became the face of a very flashy kind of success, but she was not exactly clean behind the camera. The controversies. The first red flag came way back in 2005. By then, Ma Mkize was already deep in government construction work. She had a company called Ziculis Cleaning, Maintenance, and Transport, and it was getting big contracts to build RDP houses. Those are state-funded homes for low-income communities. But in 2005, the South African Revenue Service caught her for VAT fraud. She received a 3-year sentence, which was suspended for 5 years. That means she didn't go to jail right away, but the sentence would kick in if she got into trouble again. Her company also had to pay a fine of $837. It was not so much, but this put her on the radar. Now, you would think that would have slowed her down, but it didn't. She expanded her business and signed more projects. She started building an empire, but of course, SARS was watching her. In 2012, she was charged with tax evasion and fraud. The details were harder to find and not all of them made it into the media, but the charges were there. SARS was already circling. They were starting to question how her companies worked and how much tax she was actually paying. Now, at this point, Ma Mkize was still acting like nothing was wrong. Publicly, she denied everything. She said people were jealous of her success. She even blamed what she called the construction mafia, which are groups of companies that allegedly dominated the industry and didn't like her winning so many tenders. According to her, she did better work for less money, and that made some big players angry. But while she gave interviews and kept her image polished, the situation got worse. In 2013, SARS announced that Ma Mkize owed more than $11.6 million in unpaid taxes. That kind of debt doesn't just happen overnight. SARS said she had not been paying what she owed over a long period. The debt included VAT, interest, and penalties. It pointed to a major problem with how her businesses were reporting income, or not reporting it at all. And it was not just taxes. Around this time, the houses her company built were being investigated too. Some were declared unsafe and demolished. That made people question whether she was cutting costs to keep more profit, or whether her company was just doing poor work. In court documents, judges raised concerns about how her companies operated. Some pointed out that the structure of her business made it easy to avoid responsibility. It was hard to trace which company owned what, and that made it harder for SARS to collect what they were owed. However, these are not the only legal troubles she has been in. Advocate Cloette Murray was a top tax investigator who worked on liquidation cases related to state corruption. In 2013, he was assassinated. He had reportedly worked on cases involving companies linked to Ma Mkize. And in 2024, another SARS advocate, Kareth Nodé, was shot 3 times outside a hotel in Durban after returning from a meeting. She was one of the legal officers handling the tax case against Ma Mkize and her football club Royal AM. No one has officially linked Ma Mkize to the attacks, but the timing was suspicious. People started accusing her of these assassination attempts. Then came the scandal involving her own sister. Her sister is Nosifo Ngubo. In 2024, she filed an affidavit in court saying Ma Mkize used her identity without her permission to register companies and buy the Royal AM Football Club in her name. At the time, Ngubo says she was sick. She was recovering from surgery and complications from COVID and had no idea what was going on. But because her name was on the paperwork, SARS came after her too. They demanded $670,000 from her and froze her bank accounts. They even showed up and seized her furniture, cars, and farm animals. Ngubo said in court that she had no involvement in any of it, and that Ma Mkize used her as a front to hide assets from her ex-husband, who was trying to claim half of everything in their divorce. So by the time SARS prepared their big raid in late 2024, this wasn't just about taxes anymore. There were too many allegations against Ma Mkize. The raid that exposed her. After years of debt warnings and court orders, SARS finally acted. Armed with a preservation order from the Durban High Court, SARS showed up at Sean Mkize's La Lucia mansion. And they came along with the Hawks and the South African Police Service. They were there to seize assets, recover documents, and freeze anything tied to her alleged $2.23 million in unpaid taxes. The raid was not just at her mansion. Police also hit multiple properties, including her Pietermaritzburg house, Sandhurst residence in Johannesburg, and a family farm. They were taking what they could find. What they found shocked everyone. Inside her mansion, officers uncovered over 40 firearms. This included rifles, handguns, and shotguns. They also found over 200 rounds of ammunition, some locked in a safe, others hidden in various parts of the house. And the issue was that many of the gun licenses had expired. Some weapons were linked to a private security company owned by Vusumuzi Kat Matlatla, a man already tied to several political interference scandals and mentioned in leaked WhatsApp messages involving senior police officials. During the same raid, one of her security guards was arrested on the spot for illegal firearm possession. And SARS didn't stop with homes. They also seized several luxury cars, including a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, Ferrari, Maserati, G-Wagon, and Rolls-Royce Ghost. The value of the vehicles taken during the raid was estimated to be over $1.56 million. These cars were the front and center of her brand. By December 2024, news broke that SARS had also seized Royal AM Football Club. The club had stopped paying players, staff were complaining, and now the entire operation was under investigation. SARS alleged that Royal AM was being used to launder money and dodge taxes. In January 2025, a preservation order was issued against the club. By March, it was officially put up for auction, with a starting bid of just $56,000. That's a steep fall for a club that was once splashed all over TV and Instagram. While all this was going down, her son was seen posting a brand new BMW on social media. People were furious. His timing made it look like they didn't care at all about the investigation or the money they allegedly owed. Her case became a full public collapse. SARS actively tore through her image, her assets, and her empire. And everything was happening out in the open. Where is she now? After everything that happened, you would think Sean Mkize would step back and lay low. But she didn't. She is already making a comeback. Just recently, Ma Mkize was introduced as the new president of Mbabane Highlanders Football Club. It is one of the biggest and oldest football teams in Eswatini. Apparently, she will now be running the club for the next 3 years. And yes, she is already making changes. She is calling it Mbabane Highlanders AM, adding that AM to carry on the Royal AM name from her old club in South Africa. She even redesigned the logo by mixing her Royal AM colors with the Highlanders black and white. During the launch, she posed with players, staff, and her son Andile. She told fans this is a new chapter for her. This move comes just months after everything fell apart back home. Royal AM had been taken over by the tax office, and her luxury cars were seized. The club was put up for auction earlier this year, and Ma Mkize has stayed mostly quiet about that ever since. But now she is in Eswatini, smiling, posting again, and acting like things are back on track. The truth is, though, she has still got a long way to go. The tax money she owes is still there. The investigations into her finances have not gone away. Her sister is still in court over that signature scandal. But Ma Mkize is doing what she does best, staying visible and moving into new spaces. She might be out of the spotlight in South Africa for now, but she is clearly not done with football, business, or fame. If you want to live the kind of dreamy, luxurious life Ma Mkize was showing off, the fastest way might just be through a lottery. Watch our next video to find out how to boost your chances of winning the next lottery.